The Obama administration has killed more people in targeted killings than died on 9/11, and the vast majority were neither Taliban nor Al-Qaeda leaders, according to the Council on Foreign Relations. Although more than 95% of all battlefield killings have been, non-battlefield killings, have been done by drones, there are also Joint Special Operations Command raids, AC-130 gunships used cruise missiles launched offshore by air or sea. Now, drones are Obama's weapon of choice because, unlike piloted aircraft, they don't jeopardize the lives of U.S. pilots. However, a study based on classified military data conducted by the Center for Naval Analyses and the Center for Civilians in Conflict found that although we hear that drones are going to result in fewer civilian casualties, they actually resulted in 10 times more civilian casualties than armed bombers in Afghanistan. There is a comprehensive report, Living Under Drones, issued by Stanford Law School and NYU Law School, which talks about the false narrative of this surgical strike. And the administration refers to these killings as bug splat. Bug splat. And in the film, Good Kill, you can see the woman who is in the room with the person who is dropping the bomb. Every time there's a bomb that blows up, she goes smash. And this is talking about the collateral damage methodology that the U.S. military and CIA employ. They are counterproductive in addition to being illegal and immoral. General Stanley McChrystal, you remember him? He was the architect of the U.S. counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan. He said that drones are hated on a visceral level and lead to a perception of American arrogance. The Pakistani government maintains kind of a schizophrenic relationship with these drone strikes. On the one hand, when drones kill people in Pakistan, they complain and scream about sovereignty and killing innocent people, and then secretly allow and enable the United States to bomb people with drones, as long as, and this is the quid pro quo, as long as we also take out Pakistan's personal enemies. So that's how they allow it to take place. Drones have replaced Guantanamo as the recruiting tool of choice for militants. And Becker and Shane in the New York Times quoted Faisal Shahzad, who was pleading guilty to trying to detonate a bomb at Times Square, and he told the judge, when the drone strikes, when the drones hit, they don't see children. This is part of the blowback. John Quigley's chapter is about the blowback from the strikes. Now, how many of you have heard of American exceptionalism? Yes. Well, it's the view that people in the United States are somehow superior to people in other countries. And Obama says over and over, he said it in his 2013 speech, in his State of the Union address this year, he says, some may disagree, but I believe that America is exceptional. And in part because we have shown a willingness through the sacrifice of blood and treasure to stand up not only for our own narrow self-interest, but for the interests of all. Of course, he wasn't thinking about the hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghanis and many people in these countries who have died and the untold numbers wounded. American exceptionalism reared its head in 2013 when the Department of Justice's white paper was leaked to the public, and that contained criteria for killing U.S. civilians with targeted killings. And while people were not so concerned, of course they really don't, we have the sanitized, the media sanitizes the information about people killed with drone strikes, so we don't see the images of the drone victims, we don't hear their stories. But when it was revealed that U.S. citizens might be killed, Americans were outraged. Rand Paul mounted his 13-hour filibuster of John Brennan's nomination to be CIA director. And it's that double standard that motivated Nobel Peace Prize winner Archbishop Desmond Tutu to write the foreword actually, he did write the foreword to the book, but that was because I saw his letter to the editor of the New York Times, where he asked, do the United States and its people really want to tell those of us who live in the rest of the world that our lives are not of the same value as yours? And he elaborates on that theme in his foreword. In 2013, when Obama gave his speech, and he gave it kind of defensively because there was international criticism targeting, international I say, not national, international criticism targeting his drone policy and the continued indefinite detention of men at Guantanamo who were starving themselves to death and military guards violently force-feeding him. And that's when he gave his speech. How much time do I have left? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well. Okay. I'm going to finish up, and that is until this is my last sentence. Until we stop invading other countries with Muslim populations, occupying their lands, torturing their people, uncritically supporting other countries that illegally occupy other people's lands, we will never be safe from terrorism. Thank you.
Again, this is Amanda Bass, a recent graduate of NYU Law School, who's been leading the battle to criticize, perhaps remove, Harold Koh from his position at NYU Law School.
I'd like to thank World Can't Wait and Stephanie for inviting me to speak today and for joining the others on this panel. I'm a recent law graduate, and this past semester, a few law students and I undertook an effort to hold Harold Koh, who, as some of you may know, between 2009 and 2013 served as the State Department legal advisor to the Obama administration. And in that capacity, Harold Koh was responsible for providing the legal architecture around and the public defense of the Obama administration's targeted killing program. So recently, January of this year, we found out that Harold Koh was appointed by NYU Law School to teach, of all things, human rights law. And a few of us found that to be unacceptable. So I really wanted to just share with you all a little bit about our effort to hold this executive official publicly accountable for crimes that he was complicit in facilitating and which he publicly defended. We found this effort to be important because of the ways in which avenues for accountability through Congress and through the courts for individuals like Harold Koh are inaccessible. So just a bit about Harold Koh's time at the State Department. As I mentioned, between 2009 and 2013, he was the State Department legal advisor. And in March 2010, he gave a speech before the American Society of International Law, which was the first time that the Obama administration had publicly articulated its legal rationale for targeted killings. And Harold Koh, who was someone who had a reputation as being a human rights attorney, someone who had defended Haitian detainees at Guantanamo Bay, and he was a strong critic of abuses of executive power under the Bush administration, was chosen to be the face of this program. And so one of the things that was disturbing to individuals aware of the targeted killing program and its devastating human cost was the way that Harold Koh dismissed compelling evidence of the drone program's illegality and immorality under international human rights and humanitarian laws. And for those, for whom the targeted killing of American citizens was also unacceptable since it occurred in violation of constitutional rights to due process, when he, after 2011, defended the killing of Anwar al-Awlaki as having occurred in compliance with appropriate procedures, that was also something that that was deeply problematic and disturbing to a number of individuals. And so, knowing all of this, a few students and I got together and we documented all of this, and we wrote a statement of no confidence in Harold Koh, in which we condemned the law school's hiring of Harold Koh to teach human rights law, given his role in not just rhetorically supporting, but also actively shaping and providing the legal rationale for and defending a human rights and constitutional rights violating program. We cited to Mr. Koh's public speeches, including the one I mentioned in March 2010. We also cited to a number of human rights reports, including the report Ms. Cohen mentioned, Living Under Drones, which was co-authored by Stanford Law and NYU Law School, and which documented the devastating human costs of the program, which argued for why the drone program was illegal and immoral. We also cited to the report published in 2010 by my former international human rights professor, and who in 2010 was the UN Special Rapporteur on summary, extrajudicial, and arbitrary executions, Philip Alston, who also documented the illegality of the drone program that Mr. Koh at that same time was publicly defending. So I say all of this because it matters, a little bit later when I describe the response to our petition by the NYU Law Administration and some members of the faculty. So we circulated this petition, which cited to all of the sources and more that I mentioned, and invited students within the law school as well as faculty and concerned community members to sign on in support. We also circulated the petition among community and anti-war groups, as well as to students, faculty, lawyers, and activists around the country. At the same time, we were also planning a roundtable discussion on drones, where we sought to examine the role of human rights lawyers like Harold Koh in masking and enabling the crimes of the US government, and often doing so through the rhetoric and through the framework of human rights. So shortly thereafter, the repression from the NYU Law faculty and administrators began. The petition organizers, myself included, as well as every law student signatory of the petition, received personal emails from faculty member Ryan Goodman urging us to end this campaign, for those who had signed to withdraw their support and to withhold their support, because this was a smear campaign, it was baseless, it reflected poorly on the NYU law community. Other professors did similarly, individually emailing their advisees, their students, questioning their decision to add their name to our petition. The NYU Law School Dean, Trevor Morrison, held his constitutional law class back for 5 minutes on 2 separate occasions to condemn our petition as a baseless smear campaign, as wholly inaccurate, and yet addressed none of the sources to which we cite, and dismissed entirely the serious concerns that we raised. I also received several phone calls from the executive director of the organization where I interned last summer, the Southern Center for Human Rights. One of them was at 11 p.m. at night, followed by a late night text message asking me to call him because he wanted to discuss my involvement in this effort. Now, he's a Yale law professor and someone who is on faculty with Harold Koh, and what we saw was Harold Koh activating his networks of power to essentially suppress our critique and to intimidate us and to get us to drop this effort.